Welcome to the Sam the Answer Man podcast. For 30 years, Sam Ventola has been an attorney, hearing officer, professor, and mediator. Now he's here to answer your legal questions. Sam the Answer Man, law made simple. Here's your hosts, Sam and Gina Ventola.
Hey everybody, I'm Gina.
And I'm Sam.
Welcome to the Sam the Answer Man podcast, where Sam, our resident answer man, answers your questions. So I kind of have a tough topic to talk to you about today. Let's talk about divorce.
You're going to talk about divorce, like right here on the podcast?
Business divorce.
Oh, okay. Like business is splitting up.
Yes.
Yeah, that is a big topic for our legal and mediation practice. I would say next to landlord-tenant disputes and commercial leases, business is splitting up. It's probably the biggest issue that we have in our mediations. And it's a tough one to get to because there are a lot of issues that come up.
So could you elaborate on some of these issues?
So, when you're talking about a breakup of the business, you're talking about, in many cases, something that all the parties have been working on, more or less exclusively for a long period of time, maybe several years. And so now you're coming to a situation where you're trying to find a way, perhaps one person wants out, perhaps the entire enterprise is not working, and you're trying to find a way to satisfy all the parties who are deeply invested in what has gone on so far and what is going to happen in the future.
So what are some of the causes? I know you mentioned a couple of them, but I'm assuming there's more than I just want out.
Well, one of them is just, as you say, somebody wants out, and there are reasons for that. Maybe somebody's retiring. Maybe somebody doesn't want to do this business anymore. Maybe somebody doesn't think that the business is not operating profitably enough, that they want to go on and do something else. Maybe they're upset with the way things have worked out in terms of workload or in terms of how the profits have been distributed so far. When you look at businesses, a lot of times, a lot of the compensation you have to look at is not just the profits, but it's salaries. People are typically paid salaries for actual work that they do. And that is where a lot of the money in small businesses goes. And maybe somebody's not happy with who's getting a salary, how much salary they're getting. So basically, somebody has made a decision that going on in the business is not the best thing to do, that they need to find a way to break it up. And at that point, you have to take, the business and split it up according to what each party is entitled to. And of course, everybody thinks that they're entitled to maybe more than they are.
So how do you as a mediator, what is your approach in these types of mediations?
Well, one is that if it's possible for the business to continue, you have to emphasize that it's the interest of everybody for that to happen. So a lot of times people are mad. They say, just let this business be destroyed. I don't care. Just let it fall. But the fact is that if the business has value, then that value is something that can help compensate everybody, even the people who are leaving the business. And so it's important to try to preserve the business where the business has an ongoing value. The second thing, and this is true in all mediations, but it's really true in this kind, is parties really need to look forward rather than back. I mean, okay, you're splitting up, you're not going to be dealing with each other anymore. Anybody in that situation who's splitting up is going to be able to come up with a list of grievances against the other partners, what they did or didn't do that they object to, and a lot of times it creates anger. But when you're trying to resolve the situation, you need to do it in a business-like way, and part of that is, just try to look forward to see, what is a way that we can all agree to have this resolve itself on a going forward basis without necessarily righting all the wrongs of the past.
So you could say there's no crying in mediation.
Well, hopefully there's not, but unfortunately there is. But that, and again, you have to recognize reality that people are emotionally invested. But ideally, there shouldn't be. Ideally, people would be willing to go past that and try to find the logical solution for the future.
So with that being said, you as a mediator, how would you recommend business partners kind of minimize the risk?
Well, ideally, you have accounted for this going in by having a agreement, whether it be a partnership agreement or operating agreement for limited liability company or the corporate documents, whatever they are, have them so that these issues have a way to be resolved without having to rely on later agreements. A lot of people will say, have a buy-sell agreement that says, when the business splits up, then one partner will be able to buy the other partner's stake in the company on a mutually agreeable price. That's not helpful. That's essentially not having any protection at all, because you have to have a mutually agreeable price. And when you try to come up with that, you're going to have to go through all of these issues the same way. Rather, you should have a way to resolve the case, even if there's an impasse, such as agreeing to a mediation process or agreeing to an arbitration process that will involve a business valuation. And again, you have to agree in advance how you're going to pick the business valuator. You can't just say, we'll have a business valuator, or we'll have an arbitrator. And I see agreements like this all the time, and they don't spell out how you are going to pick that arbitrator. And one person just ends up just not responding as to who the arbitrator should be or who the business valuator should be. But when you draft your initial documents, even though you're in love at the beginning, you think this thing is going to be the next big thing, and you're going to be together forever, and you're going to make tons of money. You have to account for the possibility that this thing goes south. And so you have to have documents that creates an actual method of resolution at the end of the day. Having said that, me as a mediator or as an attorney, a lot of my work would be lost if people did do that, because the reality is, in most cases, they don't. They have contracts that are unclear, that are ambiguous as to what is going to happen, and they end up in litigation or mediation to try to resolve it. And in that case, again, you don't have the governing documents you would have hoped for to resolve the thing, but you can try to resolve the thing on similar terms. You can try to say, okay, should we introduce a business valuator here? How will we select this person in order to determine what the value of the entire company is, and therefore what the value of each share is? And that's an example of the kind of thing that is going forward. Okay, let's just find a way to split up the value of this thing in a way that that can be acceptable to everybody.
So you're almost saying have a prenup, for lack of a better
Exactly. Yes, very good. Yeah, it is a prenup, absolutely. And I'm not familiar with family law prenups, but I would imagine that the purpose of them, and that's a good way to think about it, is so that everybody knows going in what's going to happen if it breaks up. And I don't necessarily agree with prenups in the marriage sense, but I definitely agree with them in the business sense, because you have to approach that situation on a business-like footing and make sure that you account for what has or hasn't happened.
Well, there you have it. Sam, do you have anything else you'd like to add on this?
No, I mean, again, would emphasize two things. One is, as you get into business, make sure that you get
Have
counsel,
a prenup?
have a prenup, and prenups you may be able to get off the internet or something. Not a business one. You need somebody who's going to account for your type of business, the number of shareholders you have, in order to make sure that you are going to be able to exit this thing economically. And ideally that would be somebody who is an attorney and who is experienced in litigation, because they've seen how these things have gone south in the past and what has to be done about them. For example, if you have only one other partner and you just say, well, you should have 50-50 and we'll vote on everything. Well, that creates an issue where if you have an impasse, you don't have any way of breaking it because one person says one thing and one person says another. Conversely, if you have a situation where you have three partners or something, you have to make sure that you're not having a situation where two of the partners can sort of gang up on the other and just decide to sacrifice that person's rights for the sake of the others. So any kind of business you have, there are so many variables that don't try to get your prenup off the internet. You really need to speak with an attorney experienced in these kinds of disputes when they happen in order to avoid them in your documentation. And then secondly, if you don't have, which you probably don't, if you don't have documents that are that good, and you do end up in a business divorce, again, I would seek a mediator first thing. Rather than going to a lawyer who's going to say, oh yeah, you're right, they're wrong, I'm going to file a lawsuit, I'm going to get an injunction, I'm going to get discovery, I'm going to find out all of these things, and I'm going to file all these motions and all these papers. Just think about, the clock on that one and the money clock, because all of that is going to be very expensive, and it probably is not the best solution. The best solution is probably even before any of you lawyer up, go to an attorney who's willing to talk to everybody about what the law is, who can mediate the dispute and try to find a solution that corresponds with what the documents do provide and is fair to everybody and something everybody can live with going forward.
And to make sure they have a mediation clause in their contract.
It would be a good idea to have a mediation clause in the contract, but even if you don't, you can always agree to mediate after the fact.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much for watching and listening to our podcast. Thank you, Sam. That was very informative and a lot of great information there. So one takeaway, if you're a business owner and you have partners, get a prenup. If you enjoyed that, if you want further information, contact us. You can email sam@ventolalaw.com. You can also reach us by phone. You can message us on Facebook. We are everywhere. YouTube, iTunes. What are some of the other places? Twitter. We are all over the place. So reach out to us. And Sam has written a great article on this topic, and it'll be up on our website, so you can check that out too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you would like to discuss your legal issue with Sam, please contact Ventola Law at 303-864-9797 or check out our website at www.ventolalaw.com. Ventola Law, mediation and legal representation at an expert level.